Hey, it's Jay, and it's time to jabber. Hello to you, and welcome to this week's Jay's Jabberings. This week I am going to talk politics and voting and all things General Election 2015. So, last night I watched the leaders' debates on ITV. The 7 leaders of parties who are going for votes in England or Scotland and Wales. There was one that you'd only be able to vote for, in essence, if you live in Scotland, because that's the only place they're putting candidates out. And there was one that you can only vote for if you live in Wales, because that's the only place they'll be putting candidates out. I'll talk about those more later on, but I just want to go through who was there. There's David Cameron, who is the leader of the Conservative Party and has been our Prime Minister for the last 5 years. There's Ed Miliband, who is the leader of the Labour Party, who is the main opposition party to the Conservatives. There's Nick Clegg, who is the leader of the Liberal Democrats. They have been working in conjunction with the Conservatives for this past 5 years in a coalition. He's actually been the Deputy Prime Minister. Then you have the smaller parties. You have Nigel Farage, who is the leader of UKIP, the United Kingdom Independence Party. You had Natalie Bennett, who is the leader of the Green Party. Then you had the leaders of the parties that you could only vote for in Scotland or Wales. You have Leanne Wood, who is the leader of Plaid Cymru, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, or the Party of Wales, hence that's why you could only vote for them if you live in Wales. They are a party for Wales and they only put candidates out in Wales. Then you have Nicola Sturgeon, who is the leader of the SNP, or the Scottish National Party. Again, they're only putting candidates out in Scotland because they are a Scottish party. She, incidentally, is the Scottish First Minister. As I understand it, she is in charge of the Scottish Parliament. So, 7 people on the TV there, answering questions put to them by audience members, and then attacking each other, because let's face it, that's what they do, over policies and over their answers to those questions. I watch because I am interested in politics, because I think if these people are the people that are making the big decisions for our country, making the big decisions about what happens, then I need to know what they are like. It's a difficult one. The last general election 5 years ago was the first time in a while that we've had a hung parliament where one party did not get the majority. So what happened is the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats went into a coalition, so they worked together to form a government. It was what's called a hung parliament because there was no main party, no decision as it were. And it's believed by many that there won't be an outright winner this time either. That either the Conservatives or Labour will have the most out of the two of them, and they will go into a coalition or set up friendships, as it were, not a direct coalition with other parties. So it'll either be a coalition government, 2 parties working together, or a minority government where Labour or Conservatives are in the government, although they have to work with other parties to get any votes through. So after all that, I watched a bit of the news, then question time, then This Week with Andrew Neil, and there was a guest on there, and it was Joey Essex from Towie, and I was thinking, what can this guy bring to the table? What can this guy bring to a political debate? And actually, what he said was really interesting. He's a 24-year-old guy, and he basically said, I don't know anything about politics. I don't know anything about voting. I was never taught about this sort of thing. And it struck a chord with me because I was thinking, this guy is a reality TV star. He, bit of a gormless idiot. And yet, with that one sentence, maybe he's hit on something. I don't know whether it is the case that in education this is not dealt with, or whether it is actually Westminster and what's called the Westminster bubble, the political parties, not engaging with the youth of today. Personally, I've always wanted to have my say. I've always wanted to vote. Maybe it was how I was brought up, I don't know. But I've always had an opinion on things. And as soon as I was able to, I voted. I've voted in every single election, bar two, that I've been able to since turning 18, which is the age when you're eligible to vote. One was when I was at university. I was registered to vote, but my geographical ignorance meant I couldn't actually find the polling station that I was meant to go to. The other time I was ill and I just couldn't get to the polling station. But every other election, whether it's a local election, a European election or a general election, any election, I will go and vote because I want my voice heard. Hundreds of years ago, the people who could vote were the upper classes and that was it. No one else could get to vote. I'm sure lots of you have heard of the suffragettes, the movement to allow women to vote. You have a right to vote. Every single one of you watching over the age of 18 has a right to vote, and you should express that right. It was said on the programme, Joe Essex said, it's if you don't vote, you don't get to moan. Well, that's not what it's about. It's about having your say. It's about going out and saying to these people who want to make the laws and run the country, say, actually, no, I don't agree with you. I agree with you. People think one vote cannot make a difference, but in the grand scheme of things, it could. If every single person who was eligible to vote actually voted, we would have a totally different outcome to the one that we usually get. Lots of people just don't vote. Russell Brand, TV star, film star, author, went on a bit of a publicity thing a while back, basically saying we should revolt. We shouldn't vote because they're all the same. And yes, I get that. I get that, the Conservatives and Labour, they're coming into the centre. Before it was believed that Conservatives were very right-wing, Labour was left-wing, but they've all come towards the centre ground, which in a way actually is quite good because they're, a lot of things that they agree on now. But he says they're all the same people. But I don't think that's true. I think there's enough diversity within the parties. But it's down to us as individuals to go out and find out that information. There are plenty of websites that you can go on, set up by independent companies. There you can plug in what you think and it will tell you which party you lean towards. There are others where you can answer questions, what you believe out of a set of statements would be what you think the most, and it will come out with what you think. I've been onto them several times and actually the majority of the ones I've been on are quite accurate. They come out and they sort of tell me things that I understand that. Yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards. I have a leaning towards certain political parties because that is how my brain works. And I think, yes, I believe in that and that and that, and that's what that party embodies. But it's been up to me to go out and find that information. Me as an individual. And it's up to you as an individual to do that as well. I could stand here and tell you this party believes in this and this party believes in this. But will you take it in? Probably not. You need to go out and find for yourself. Everyone has their own belief system. Everyone has their own thoughts about what should be done and what shouldn't be done. What's the priorities? Find the political party that matches your belief system the best. It doesn't matter which party it is. I'm not here to say one party is better than the other. And the 7 that I mentioned, taking out the 2, so the 5 that I mentioned earlier aren't the only ones. There are loads of other political parties as well that weren't on that programme. There's people who run as independents, means that they will run and they will be there for your community as a whole. Not many of those get into Parliament, I have to admit, but it has happened and it can happen again. There are parties that come and go. Monster Raving Loony Party, Respect, BNP, lots of different parties that run and put their views, and you have absolutely every right to vote for who you think is saying what you believe. One thing I will say is don't just take the surface. Those leaders on that TV programme, they just gave a general idea of what their party stands for. But I would say always look deeper. Always go and find out as much information as you can. So when it comes to polling day, when it comes to that time when you can go to your local polling station, look at that slip of paper and put an X against the one person you want to vote for, you will have a clear idea. There is the thing about whether you're voting for the person or whether you're voting for the party. That I can't answer because I'm still not sure of that myself. We've got an MP at the moment for a certain party and she does a great job, but it's not a party that I would automatically say I agree with. You have the right to make your voice heard, and the only way you can do that is by going out on election day and voting. I don't want to talk much longer because this video is far too long as it is, I'm sure, but I hope you've taken from it that you have a voice, you have a say. In some people's minds they would say you have a responsibility to get out there and vote. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and all that malarkey, and I'll see you next time.